Circles with centers 2, 4, and 14, 9 have radii 4 and 9 respectively. The equation of a common external tangent to the circles can be written in the form y equals mx plus b with m greater than 0. What is b? So I'm going to label a few things here. The first thing is I want to extend this line to the x-axis like that. And the next line I want to draw is between the two centers. And I will continue that line all the way to the x-axis like that. Okay? Then I will connect the center of the large circle to its tangent point like that. And I'll also draw the line down to the base, which is the x-axis. And I can do the same for the small circle like this. Then finally I'll draw two lines that are parallel to the x-axis first like that, and another line that's parallel to that tangent line. And that should be sufficient for our question. Start labeling some of these right angles. That's the first right angle. This is the second right angle, right? Because this is tangent, so that is a right angle. And this is a tangent, and that is a right angle. And since those two lines were parallel, they also make right angles. Now I will start labeling some of the distances. We know that the small circle has a radius of 4. So from here to here is 4. And if that's the case, and this line is parallel to the tangent line, the distance from here to here will also be 4. And the radius of the large circle is 9, so therefore the distance from here to here will be 5. And in a very similar way, this is 4, this distance is 4, and this distance is 5. This distance right here we can get easily from the fact that we know the x-coordinates are 14 and 2, so 14 minus 2, which is 12, is that distance right there. So this line right here is what I want to concentrate on first. I will call that L1. All right? And L1, I want to know its slope. Well, the slope of any line we can figure out easily with rise over run, as I'm sure you know. And the rise in this case we can get easily through this triangle, and we can also get the run. The rise is 5 and the run is 12. So the slope of that line L1 is 5 over 12. And you could easily calculate that slope using these 2 points as well. Either way it would work. Now that line L1, because it is a line, it has the form y equals mx plus b, as all lines do. And since I have 2 points, I can substitute those 2 points in to figure out what is the exact equation of this line. So let's use the first point, 14, 9. That would give me 9 is equal to 14m plus b. And if I substitute the second point, that would give me 4 is equal to 2m plus b. Okay? Now we already know the slope is 5 over 12, so m is 5 over 12. So I can put 5 over 12 into either of these. So if I put 2 times 5 over 12, this will allow me to calculate for b. And this looks like 4 minus 5 over 6 is b, and therefore b is equal to 19 over 6. So this equation is y is equal to 5 over 12x plus 19 over 6. The equation of line L1, which is right there, this line. All right, so why was that important? Well, that allows me to figure out this point right here, that point. And that is going to help us with that line eventually. So how do I figure out that point? Well, what is that point? Essentially, it is where it crosses the x-axis. So when y is equal to 0. So when y is equal to 0, we set that in this equation, and this will allow us to get the x value. So if we do the math here, we got minus 19 over 6 is equal to 5 over 12x. So x looks like minus 19 times 2 over 5. And that is equal to minus 38 over 5. So that means this point is minus 38 over 5 and 0. Okay, so at this point, now we can finally concentrate on this line right here. But before we do that, I'd like to revisit this triangle right here and explain the concept that will help us figure out this important line, its slope. In this triangle right here, if you label this angle here theta, the tangent of that, in our case, is 5 over 12. And what's interesting is that represents also the slope, which is denoted by m. And if you were to look at this diagram, if that is theta, this is also theta right here. Okay? And this angle, theta, is essentially half of that angle right there. So that is 2 theta. Because this diagram is symmetric about this line. Everything on this side is exactly the same as that side. So therefore, that line from here to here that we denoted L1 cuts that big angle exactly in half. So it cuts 2 theta into half, making it theta. So now I want to look at 2 theta. And what is the reason I want to look at 2 theta? Well, because think about it. If tan of theta represents the slope of this line, tan of 2 theta will represent the slope of that line in a very similar way. So the tan of 2 theta I need to calculate without the use of a calculator, because calculators are not allowed on the US math contests. So I have to use my 2 tan theta style of calculation. 1 over tan of theta squared. This is the equation for tan 2 theta. So that would mean 2 times tan of theta, which is 5 over 12, all over 1 minus 5 over 12, all squared. And this gives me a value of 5 over 6 over 1 minus 25 over 144. And this is 5 over 6 over 119 over 144. And that is 5 over 6 invert multiply 144 over 119. And that reduces to 120 over 119. So going back to our diagram, what that basically means is that this line right here, from here to here, that line has a slope that we just calculated. And that slope was 120 over 119. So we are interested in y equals mx plus b. We want to know in particular the value of b. Okay, we already found the value of m, 120 over 19, 119. And now we can figure out b. But how can we figure out b? Well, the good news is we have a point on that line. That point was on both lines. It was on L1, and it's also now on this line, which I can call L2. So substitute that point into here, and we will be able to calculate for b. So we've got 0 for y is equal to 120 over 119. X is minus 38 over 5, like that, and plus b. So put everything on the other side. You get positive 120, positive 38 over 119 times 5. Now I've got to do a little bit of reducing to lowest terms. This looks like 24 times 38 over 119. And if you multiply that out, you get 912 over 119. So that is the value for b, and that is what they're looking for in this question. What is b? And therefore the answer for number 19 is E.